morning, everybody. This is Laura Hendrickson from Open Ocean Marketing. I am here with Kevin Schouweiler, and he has RightFunnel, online sales funnel expert. So excited to have you, Kevin. Thank you so much for joining us in this amazing summit with 21 experts. And I just wanted to say hello. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself, how you got into online sales funnels, and a little bit about your journey here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Laura, for the kind intro. And it's fun seeing you in person here. I know we talked a little bit on the phone. It's nice getting a little visual and face-to-face. A little about my background. So I can't say that I was somebody that forged a path and said, I'm going to go into online sales funnels. I think I shared a little bit with you that it was kind of a organic start where I started in affordable housing, wonderful industry, and pivoted into software to serve that industry. One of the things that with software you need to attract customers. And so in choosing to work with software several years ago, somebody on the team needed to learn skills of how to market. And so that kind of forced me into a position where I'm going to need to learn in the online world how to position ourselves. Now, fast forward a few years, software was doing great. I had a knock on the door from a podcasting friend of mine as well. And he said, you're doing pretty well with that thing over there. Would you give me a few tips? Is there some things you can recommend? And so I recommended a few things for him. Fast forward a few months later, he had sent 4, 5, 6 people my way, also asking suggestions. And finally I had to stop and say, I'm either going to turn these folks away as I have a full-time operation, software's doing well, or I can take a look deeper and see, are people really wanting support in this area? And so I dove in, and that's what really started RightFunnels, the company that we have, which is we support podcasters with their marketing and attracting folks and leading them down the path to not just becoming listeners, also in their sales funnels, as many of their audiences, they'll sell services, products, online products or services. And all those have to have a certain path to walk somebody through. So been in business here for about a good 8 years, responsible for a few millions in sales. Obviously, that's not all take-home profit. Net profit's a little different, especially when you get into physical products, which I'm sure some of your other guests have talked about with margins and such. But yeah, that's a little bit about my background. And we really like to geek out on the data of it. So we'll talk a little bit about that today. I think it'll be fun.
Awesome. Very cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So you talked about podcasters. Is there any other industry or specific type of niche that you've really kind of honed in on, or feel like you have some super insights, just in case we've got some of those listeners on the platform here?
Great question. Yeah. So we specifically work with business and marketing podcasts and health and wellness. Now, why those two industries? Both have audiences that have pain points that can easily be monetized. Many of those that are in those two industries, they have customers that are willing to say, yes, I want to solve this. Can you take me further? Here's how we do that. So that's why those two industries we work with specifically. Are there others? Yes, we've worked with murder mystery podcasts and got people like listen to those. I'm not selling them the tools to go out and become a murderer themselves. So that's not necessarily going to work out well. Though, there's folks out there that will still sell advertising or other things on those podcasts, and that's an interesting thing that we support. But in terms of sales funnels, it works quite well with health and wellness, business marketing podcasts for us.
Very good. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive right in. Talk about some key components of online sales funnels, customer journey, and kind of what they need to have done right, kind of the first and foremost thing to focus on, and then just the tips as far as optimizing those key components.
Love it. Yeah. So it's fun because now in this day and age, there's like many templates out there. There's things that people can easily use, and we're not starting from scratch. When I first got started, there was still like not as great of tools out there. So we had to learn how to like code ourselves and put it in place. Worked great because I was in software at the time, so I had people to do it. But what's fun is there's now like tested things out there you can look at and go, oh, okay, I know what the setup can look like. I know you'll have other podcasts or other speakers on here that'll look at sales funnel layouts. What I'm going to focus on specifically for your audience that I think would be fun is looking at the broad picture of like, if I optimize long-term, what will that allow us to do? So I'm going to share my screen a little bit and give you some backstory on what I'm talking about. So let's dive in a little bit, because what I like to look at in any sales funnel that I'm building, I'm looking at who am I starting with, where are they at right now? And I've taken a little of this from good old Papa Frank Kern, who, he just laid it out beautifully years ago. And so I like to steal from some of the best. So I'll give credit where credit's due. Though in looking at where somebody's at now and then where they're looking to go, it will highlight a journey. And where along the path there'll be specific milestones where they get results, or they have to learn certain steps, or they have to reach a certain milestone in order to make to the next one. And we all kind of know this regardless of what we're choosing, whether it's with my own path with health and fitness, whether it's my career path, whether I'm just learning how to use a tool like ClickFunnels, like whatever it is, there's going to be where I'm starting and where I'm ending up and what's in between. That's what I use for building the sales funnel in terms of I don't necessarily look at what I'm offering first. I look at what do they need along that journey and how do I fill that in, then insert said product or offer. So how this looks is I'll look at what's the first step in their journey. I'll give an example. So if I look at dating, which is kind of a fun analogy, it's like I'm not going to go from, I see someone, I'm interested in how they're talking, maybe what they're touching upon, how their body language is, and then go straight to asking them to marry me. It's going to take a few steps before I even get to that, right? It's going to take a conversation, see if there's any chemistry there. I might ask that person to join me later somewhere else, whether it's for coffee, go out for dinner, maybe go on a few activities together, maybe go on a few dates, and all those are just little points along the steps. And so if I show someone first how to go along that, sure. The desired end result might be that they want a healthy, vibrant relationship. So how do I walk them through how to even start conversation or put myself in an environment where I might meet interesting people? And so that's what I might look at in terms of the sales funnel. Now, I don't want to turn this into a dating show or anything. So we'll look at some maybe more fun examples, like with health and wellness. I work with a lot of those folks. So if I want to, let's say, have a thinner waistline, well, I'm not going to just start, feeling terrible about myself in this before state. Oh, my body's out of shape. I'm going to look at what's the first step to start seeing progress. So I get that little aha. That's what I'm going to offer in the sales funnel. And I look at these little milestones as they stack together to see how I'm going to build it out. Because what I want is that they're still leaving a little bit left for us to go deeper. And that can be some of the higher ticket items. Okay. With the overall layout of a funnel, sales funnel, there's some basic components to it. First, we have traffic that's going to come from different sources, whether it's Facebook ads, Instagram, they might be from my blog or from my email list. And then they're going to come to an opt-in page. Now, if they're already on my email list, I'm likely not going to capture their info right there. So I might skip a step, depending on if I already have their email and I can follow up with them or not. Though they're going to go to a sales page, an order form thereafter to say yes to something to go deeper with that relationship, and we may offer an upsell. Pretty basic stuff. You guys probably heard about this. Where I get really excited is when I start looking at, well, what if we just tweak and test a little bit and say, what if I could double the opt-in rate? Okay, that traffic, if I take the number of people that are coming there and double the amount of people that move to the next step. Okay, that's great. So I get more people that see the sales page. Now, what if I were to double that? And what if I were to then have more people seeing the order form and double that and start seeing more people seeing the upsell and all that stuff together? It'd be 2x by 2x by 2x. And that looks great because you could go, okay, well, I got 2 plus 2 is 4 plus 2 is 6 plus 2 is 8. So I have like 8 times more people. And it's not quite that true. In fact, it has a hockey stick approach where it exponentially starts growing in your results. So the growth potential, if I optimize each step along the process, it ends up being 2 times 2 times 2 is 16. I'd have a 16-fold return on my results. Now, if you have that in terms of like numbers and profit, now you start getting excited.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's where I could go. Go ahead.
So just real quick on that. the tweaking and testing, is that where you kind of break it? If you've got a certain traction on a landing page, then are you still tweaking it to say, can it be better? And I think we're going to go over that in a little bit, but basically getting that first landing page, getting that to convert, and then obviously for getting everybody through the funnel is maybe the primary goal, but then once you have at least a certain number of people that are getting all the way through, then you go back to each step and just optimize that just a little bit more. Is that kind of what you're saying?
100%.
Okay.
And in fact, we always like to have tests running. If it's live, there's traffic going through it at any given time. It's not like something that we've siloed off, forgotten about. It's like the little step kid that we left in the corner, neglected, which some of us do have funnels like that, where they're forgotten about, we haven't touched it in a while. If it's something that you actively are putting attention towards, I should always be having a test available if there's active traffic. Now, what this also brings to is that if there's a low amount of traffic or a low amount of numbers, it's likely not going to yield a result for a while. And that brings into play something called statistical significance. And so let's say, if on my opt-in page, let's say I have 20 people that show up from my little blog in the middle of nowhere that very few people frequent. Well, I'm probably not going to get a side-by-side split test to show me which version A or version B is performing better for quite some time, especially if it's a really close one. And I'll show you an example. I like to use this calculator by Neil Patel. It's just a little more colorful. It's a little more fun. So let's say that I have those 20 visitors and 20 go to my version A of the landing page, 20 go to version B. And let's say the conversion was that 4 people opted in on version A and 5 people opted in on version B. Well, it's a pretty low amount of traffic and a very small split. Thus, unfortunately, my results are not yet statistically significant. And it may take a while, even if I put zeros behind these and 10x the traffic, same result, but it may take a while to get to that before I find statistical significance. Notice just by 10xing the amount of traffic, same results, it's still questionable. Okay?
Got it.
So that's why I bring up that it may take a while. And so thus, I'll still have an active test going, but I just want to be patient as knowing like, okay, of those 10 people, 4 opted in on that one, 5 opted in on the other. So B must be better. I find this as like a big pitfall for many is that they see it very early on, already seeing a small split. I have to play it out long-term before I know statistically that it really is a true winner. Because it could be volatile. Next week, it may flip-flop. Mm-hmm. Of those 10 people, it may go the other way because there's only a 1-person difference, right?
Yeah. So
that's where it becomes kind of fun.
Yeah, with this and these tools, so thank you for this tool, neilpatel.com. But is there a time frame? Oftentimes you get businesses that are sinking money into these online sales funnels and they're not seeing results, or they're just not aware of how long it really takes to get a sales funnel going and then testing. Like, how long do you typically test or do your tests?
Great question. I like to not put a time frame on the test. And what I do is I set expectations, especially if it's a big client. They may have a lot riding on it, a lot going on. I let them know that the long-term play out of this, just like we saw before, 2 times 2 times 2, it can be a hockey stick approach if we have the patience to see this long-term. Now, if I get hasty and I start calling tests too early and like, oh, that one's better. Oh, version B must have been better. Like you'll see even in the market, things shift, just like we have recently as the time of this recording, things in the market have shifted. And because of that, that may impact somebody's buying decisions based on what's on there. Now, my test may show a difference based on what's shifted in the market. Does that mean that the test is true? Not necessarily. Maybe for that week, it was just a slight fluctuation. Maybe it was because it was April Fool's Day or Black Friday, right? There's anomalies that can show up. And so I want to play it out long-term. So to your question, I like to set that we're not interested in, okay, test A will be done in 30 days. Instead, I asked them, are you willing to go the long haul to see that growth potential? The possibility of it going from a 2x to like a 16x growth potential.
Great.
Make sense?
Yeah, definitely. So in our conversations, you've mentioned that you really enjoy sales consulting and specifically the upsell. And that part of the sales funnel is pretty interesting because oftentimes I've seen many sales funnel where they're adding on, or they're saying, hey, you're getting XYZ PDQ and it's worth all this amount, but then we're only going to charge you this much. And so there's a lot of that happening. What are some of your recommendations around that? And just walk us through that a little bit.
Absolutely. I think it'll be fun to give you a few examples on this. So with going back to our customer journey, they're starting in a before state. And when I get them to their after state, they're going to feel great, right? That's the idea. Or at least they're going to achieve something and have a certain state accomplished, even if they don't feel amazing. It's the desired end result. I like to look at what's complementary to get them there. And there's certain things that will accelerate that, make it easier, faster, more digestible. Maybe it will make it more fun. Maybe it's something that will simplify it. And so I like to look at what's the core offering. And the core offering will come from the before state to the after state. Where am I in that journey? So let's take for an example. So right now I'm working with a client, wonderful gentleman. He helps people with creating their own mastermind and using that as a vehicle, not just to drive results in everyone's life, also use it as a stream of income and allow people to buy into the mastermind so that people are really committed to being engaged and with that. So he starts in with a free 21-day challenge. And the challenge is just so that you can figure out who it is, what it's defined for, to create that mastermind around. Great lead magnet. Now, what we thought would be the next best step in the process was, okay, maybe let's wrap around the first paid offering to be that they get it faster. So if they want to get started, 21 days is great, good amount of time, though for some people they're just impatient. So we tested and said, okay, let's start off by offering them for $7. We'll give you all 21 days of that challenge immediately. And we got some results. Frankly, to cold traffic with the advertising and the cost per lead, it was below break even. So we were losing money. For each person that said yes to this, we were losing money. Now, there are some upsells at the end. So this is important. Whether this was the paid aspect of it or this one was the first point where a buyer said yes, what we didn't realize is what they're really wanting. And so we watched a few of the screen recordings, which I'll show you in a minute what we used for that. But what we found is that people would get to this, they would scroll really fast, and then they would bounce. And then we started to ask ourselves, what's going on here? And we go, oh, I think they're actually kind of confused. And then we had started interviewing people that opted in. We actually physically emailed them, asked if they wanted to share a little bit about their experience with it. We even talked to some on the phone. And then the feedback is they got to this page after opting in and they were confused. They're like, wait, I just opted in for a 21-day challenge. Now you're asking me to take this other 21-day challenge. So there's just a disconnect. We weren't really selling the benefit of this immediately part. Okay. Then we asked them what they really want. Went right back to this. Well, after I give them the how to get started, the first initial piece they came to along the journey is they were going to have a conversation with somebody on how. And so that conversation became a piece of sales. And so what we did is we said, okay, let's give them the 21-day challenge. We ran several tests to change the layout now. So this is the current version. So with this layout, we offer them the 21-day challenge. Yes, join the challenge. Get started for 21 days. We've made this paid. The next offering, the upsell that comes after this, let's show you how to sell. Let's show you how to have that enrollment conversation. And so it became the next immediate step. So regardless of how it's laid out, you can test these headlines, layout, all that's great. I like to look at What's more important is the overall customer journey, as I'm really hitting on the emotions of what they need. And so we found that for them to feel confident with sales would allow them ease in stepping into this for 21 days.
Very cool.
Yeah. Questions on that?
In general, some of the feedback we've been getting from the other experts is your target market, knowing the pain points, understanding them, talking in their language. And there's different ways to go about that. And you can continue listening to some of these other experts and we'll hit on those points. Yeah, so thank you. That's really great insights and a really nice way, just in that systemization of, yes, get a few people that lock in and go ahead and do a survey with them, talk to them, all that stuff. I think that's really important and valuable as you progress through creating your sales funnel and what's being said, what the headlines are like.
Totally. Don't be afraid to reach out. I actually learned that from software. I didn't learn that in sales funnel development at all. It's in software, they want market feedback quickly so that they know what's working or not. Because if they waited too long to build something in software and then bring it to market, they realize it's just garbage because they didn't incorporate the feedback loop. So I want that feedback loop immediately, if possible, of people that are coming through that funnel.
Great. What are some of the pitfalls you've seen customers try too quickly? You touched on obviously just choosing a landing page too quickly, but are there any systems or rules that you use when creating funnels? What are some of the pitfalls you've seen there?
Great question. I think just one of the ones I'll reiterate that I talked about before with the testing. I want to optimize, I want to tweak. First pitfall I see is that very hasty to move without testing statistical significance. Next is assuming I know what they want with the upsell, going to build it. I want to, as quickly as possible, test to see if I'm getting any bites without even building it, like very low fidelity. It's like, can I get it out there? And I'll come through with it as best as possible, then we'll build around it. So I see people getting hasty on we know what they want. And then the next piece is not putting enough traffic behind something if they see it working.
80-20, put some money, put some advertising into it.
Getting a little scared of I don't know, is there a better, well, maybe we'll just tweak it a little longer. And then what I see what happens is they lose momentum.
Right. Okay, then when it comes to conversion rates and split testing tools you've seen that guarantee that funnels they're building are converting, let's talk about conversion rate. And like I said, you showed us this one tool for Neil Patel, but what are some tools that you use that you can really hey, this is definitely working here, the analytics. I know there's a lot of things out there now that can actually show you if something's working or not.
Mm-hmm. What I like to hit on just as percentages, if I can, this will be dependent on the market, how willing people are to say yes to things. Certain markets are a little bit more rabid and eager to give away their information than others. Example, those that are looking at weight loss are going to be far more likely to opt in for a lead magnet and feel empowered that they can maybe do it themselves than maybe somebody that's looking at whole term life insurance. Now, why is that? Maybe it's because they don't necessarily want to have a million phone calls and be pestered about whole term life insurance. I'm not sure. But there's a little bit more skepticism in that market. So it may be dependent on market. So I hate to give hard and fast figures. But taking that aside, if I can even just build upon what I was talking about here, let's say I get a 40 to 50% opt-in rate. What if I could double it to 80% just based on a no-brainer thing? Outstanding, right? Though sales page wise, I like to see if I can get it between 3 to 5% conversion rate, then I know I'm really hitting on a winner. The order form can often be incorporated with that sales page. It's on the same thing. If there's a second step to that may add a lot of friction. So it's worth testing of, is the order form best alone by itself or on page? So that's worth a test in and of itself. The upsell, what I'll typically find is the first upsell, what I like to see is a 30% take rate. I'm not saying that's easily achievable in all markets. But really what I want to look at is the overall average order value, because those percentages can move around. If I look at the average order value, if that's over a one-time return on what I spent on the traffic to get there, now I've included a list of buyers that I can go back to with other offers, and it's at break even. If I hit breaking even just on the first part of this, everything else after that becomes gravy on top of all of it, assuming that I don't have a large overhead, or that these are like physical products that we're delivering that include margins, right? Mm-hmm. If there's shipping costs involved, if there's storage of inventory that we have to keep in stock, all kinds of that stuff stack up. Digital products I like to use as upsells first. What that can lead to is inclinations if physical products are likely to be things that people say yes to. Because physical products, they'll take a little bit to be shipped to me. Like, I don't necessarily know the quality of what I'm getting sometimes with something. Like, is it some really cheap piece of garbage that looks really nice on the internet, but when I get it, I'm going to be upset with? And so there can be some hesitancy with that as an upsell depending. But that being said, I would look at the average order value as the indicator. Like, what is my overall average order value, and is it covering my base traffic easily? Now, with regard to tools, I know I touched on screen recording. There's one built into a tool that I use, but I really like how this one's laid out. This is Mouseflow. I could probably even go in here and show you one. I think that's kind of fun to see what the tool does. Maybe we'll just include, because we were just recently doing a big push for Tony Robbins, and we were looking at, of those that come to our page, is it working? And we had like a big bonus page. Here, I'll give you an example right here. So this is somebody on a tablet layout, so I can see that the layout's a little strange. That's good to know. Oh, no, they're on a mobile phone. Great. So they're on here for 50 seconds. They scroll down, right? Oh, interesting. They stopped right here. Why'd they stop right here? What are they reading? That's the thing that I'll look at, right? So I start to see behavior. You can even see, do they click on something? And this, another thing to note here, if the video pops up on a page, you may not see that video play here, but if they're hovering over a video, it's likely that they're playing it. It's just that the screen recorder doesn't pick it up. So this tells me that this person, like, I'm just going to scroll through. I'm not really that interested in it. They're looking for, okay, what does it cost? What's the price, right? They're the skimmer. And so they're going to go up, try to figure out what the price is. And then they bounce, right? So this is a fun tool. So I can just be a fly over the wall, so I can see, is something confusing? Are people stopping because they don't understand? Are they stopping because they're interested and engaged with the copy? All that's kind of fun to stop and look at. So I'll look at least, I will look at a good sample size, and depending on how much of these recordings I actually have, I'll look at a fair sample size. I'd like to look at 10 to 20 just to get a real good view. And I'll do them on both formats, mobile, desktop, and you can tell based on the referrer. Okay, this came from m.facebook, so it's going to come from a mobile platform already. Make sense? Or this one coming from Android, it's going to be an Android device. Next piece, A/B split testing. Great tool for that. There's more than one. The one I really prefer is Virtual Web Optimizer. There's also Optimizely. I think there's a few others out there, but they'll set up and say, okay, I got two versions, version A, version B. And maybe we just change the headline. I need to know if those work. Okay, great. I can do that inside of ClickFunnels. Awesome. And then from inside of, let's say, ClickFunnels, well, that's great. It's all incorporated. What happens if there's something that ClickFunnels doesn't do? Like, let's say that I change one to a free and one to a paid option, and I want to see what the overall long-term result is. Well, it might not be able to put an opt-in next to an order form side by side. Maybe I make the first paid gate wall like one step back in the funnel. Well, I'm going to have to use another outside tool, which I come to this, and I can take two URLs, split the traffic side by side. I can do it split, or I can do it together. You just go over to testing. Now you can split a URL 50-50, allow for the page to go one direction or the other. The other is A/B. And this brings up a good piece here, because one of the pitfalls I didn't touch on is testing too many variables at once. If I change too many variables on a page at once, I'm not going to know what made the difference. But I like to say that the gold is found in the testing. I just got to be patient enough to see that growth potential. And so what I'll do is I'll take the multivariate testing and say, okay, test this variable first, this variable next, and then it will sequence what we have in a list of priorities. And these are all fairly inexpensive. I think this one's raised in price over time. Couldn't tell you right off the top of my head, honestly, because I think we do it on a yearly basis. I like to save money. But regardless if it's like $50, $100, like, is it worth it for me to see a 2x, a 4x, an 8x, a 16x possibility? Sure. I'll take that gamble any day.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of tools I like.
Awesome.
And then spreadsheets. Spreadsheets, right. I like to just keep track of the data, obviously. Like, test 1, test 2, and I'll put a date next to it. Okay, and then I'll put a little note in the last column of what the test was about. Was it a headline change? Did we change 2 different video types? A fun one that people might try out is you could take the same video and maybe put a little top on top of it, like a little hat. And what that is you just change up the first 2 to 3 minute intro and just change, what's the hook in that video each time.
Right.
The rest of the content's the same.
Well, and it's interesting too, the videos and just in general, it's kind of like that 10 to 20 second rule that you have to grab somebody. Are you hitting on that pain point, like right off the gate, or are you introducing yourself? It's really interesting to, like you said, test with the content and how you present it. If you have a checklist, say you've got kind of, we'll take 3 segments of somebody's just starting off with, they want to create some kind of online sales funnel to intermediate, small, medium business who have a level of budget that they can afford to spend for 6 months or so. And then you've got kind of that B2B larger corporation. Is there a checklist of like what to start off with and tools for each different kind of stage of engagement? And at one point do you just say, you know what, let me have an expert do this, because obviously we want experts to do this for us. But
absolutely. You might drive yourself mad if you're trying to do all of it at once. So anyone on your team will probably be best. As far as the checklist, we do have an internal one, and we do offer it to our clients that if they want to have somebody do it in-house and do their own testing, we'll let them take the reins and run with it and work on more of the overall strategy. That can be available to anybody that's listening here. And if you're okay, I'd be happy to share it for your listeners. Yeah. So if any of you guys go to rightfunnels.com/checklist. That's right as in like right hand, or like the right funnel for you. rightfunnels.com/checklist. And what that's going to be is our series of order of operations that we run through if we get our hands on somebody's funnel and go, okay, yeah, you said you guys did some testing. We're going to run it through our filters first. And we'll look at things like what is above the fold as far as elements displayed. Are we looking at headline? Are we looking at the video or no video? What's the promise? Social proof, is it above there? Credibility factors, and authority. And that checklist is something that I wouldn't necessarily, like you said, put a time cap on it of how long to run one. It will give you a priority of what I would run first and say like, okay, am I seeing the results with this? Am I getting statistical significance? Now, the fun question that comes after that is like, okay, we got an optimized result with the headline, let's say. Do I run the headline again with another headline? Where do I stop before I move on to the next one? Great question. I would run through 2 rounds of the test and then move on to the next priority piece. So I might run 2 rounds of a headline test and then go on to the next piece, okay? And the reason is we might goof around with headline forever, only to find that the bigger factor for that landing page was the video or was having different authority, okay? So you don't want to get hung up on one too long. Great question.
Now, let's see, with all the stuff that we've covered today, is there any other items that seem to kind of pop up you're thinking about that are really relevant and important to know as people are now kind of forced to get online? And what would be advice for you in regards to companies that are now facing this challenge?
Great question. We talked a little bit about this. I had a summit that we put on with another client here over the weekend. And one of the big words that came out was pivot. And to look at, we don't have to completely revamp everything we're doing. We're just making a slight variable degree change in relation to what's going on with our environment. Whether drastic or small, I need to be listening of what's going on out there and be able to pivot. Something that we do in software quite often is, pivot the product so that it meets the maybe not that particular niche, but a slight variant of that niche, or it might meet that niche, but in a different way. Or it's like, I can't get too married to how we're doing it, and be able to just kill our darlings so that something else could be possible. That being said, with sales funnels, if somebody, let's say, has a physical product, or maybe they have a hair salon, and then they're moving to sell some of their products online to get revenue while people aren't coming into the hair salon, just as an example. They might have never put a sales funnel online. Right now, what I feel many of us are looking for it's a shift in our hierarchy of needs. And if I'm going to pivot, I need to meet where their listening is. So I'll bring this up right now because I think it's worth touching on. So I'm going to share screen again because I think it's relevant. It's probably not something you guys have seen in a while if you haven't been to high school but if I'm looking at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's shifted a little bit based on this recent turn of events at the time of this recording. Is that, at some point we were really up here in self-actualization, self-esteem needs. We were looking at you'd see sales funnels that are around create the business of your dreams, finally achieve freedom around what it is you do, find more fulfillment. And it's really just striving for that upper end of that spectrum. And frankly, that's just not where we're at. And so I would poke around here and look at different images because it will give you language of what are people really looking for. I think this one is worth taking a peek at because it speaks to what we're going through, which is we've shifted from up here to now looking at things like safety, physiological needs, what's going on with my employment or resources, my health during this time. Am I, looking at immunity? So we shifted even just for our marketing for our summit. It went from live the best life possible. It was called the Maximum Life Summit. And we were having okay, make the body of your dreams, build the business of your dreams. And then it shifted because of a recent turn of events. And we started to speak to where people were at the safety and said, let's take back and generate control, certainty in our life. We shifted some of the conversations that the speakers were going to talk about. So we could look at safeguarding our personal income, protecting our health. Okay. So I would look at speaking to where the market's at now. If you're looking to shift right now in this market, if you're going online and let's say with the salon, I'm selling hair products. I'm not up here in the self-esteem and looking really good right now. I would pivot the language to feel good during times of uncertainty as routine. I wouldn't want to wake up every day and feel like a mess and be wearing pajamas for days in a row because I would feel like I'm just losing touch, right? And so I'd hit on the pieces of are you feeling you haven't had a shower in days, haven't had a haircut in weeks, aren't looking your best? You're going to touch on those things, right? And then how would you feel if every day you woke up feeling your best, regardless if you're locked in your house for days on end, not knowing when it's going to end? I would speak to it like that.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Absolutely. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
So you've given us this checklist. Is there any other events that are coming up or things that you'd like to talk about in regards to rightfunnels.com? And
I wish I could say there's a physical event coming up. It's not going to be for any bit of time, knowing that we don't know when we're going to be out of lockdown or anything at the time of this recording. So right now we're on pause with some of those.
FaceTime live happy hour, right?
Yeah, we're having a lot more virtual things lately, which is great. In regard to what's coming up for us right now, we're really focusing deep on the clients that we're serving. There is, if you go and get the checklist, there'll be an opt-in and an email list where there is like a monthly thing that we send out of what's shifting in the market. And so if you guys want to know what we're thinking about, we like to send that out to other people. And then in addition to that, if there is something that comes up, maybe if summer breaks loose and we do decide to put on an event, awesome. You guys will get notified about it there as well.
Very good.
Yeah.
Kevin, thank you very much for being a part of the summit and today's interview. Really got a lot of amazing content from you and just ideas, tools, tips. That's what this thing is all about. So really appreciate your time and your insights.
Thank you, Laura. I love that what you're putting together here and really sharing with people how they can maximize what they do and getting their message out there.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Well, enjoy the rest of your day, and thanks again for being here.
Thank you.
All right. Signing out, Laura Hendrickson from Open Ocean Marketing and Graphics, this online sales funnel expert. We appreciate you, and peace, love, and happiness for everybody. Thanks.